So what we'll do is have them introduce themselves. So let's go ahead with Dave Rockwell on in. Tell us quickly who you are and pass it on down.
Hi, I'm Dave Rockwell. I was a member of the original Ramchargers. I wrote the book, We Were the Ramchargers.
I'm Tom Coddington. I worked with Tom Miller on most of the drag racing projects, and I was a Ramcharger.
I'm John Lurie. I was a Ramcharger. Tom Hoover was my mentor. And I spent most of my time in the dynos, and that's most of my experience.
My name is Alan Adam. I was a member of the Chrysler Engineering Racing Group and also a member of the Moton Missile Team. I was involved with the development of components and the whole vehicle. Thank you.
I'm Mike Buckle, and I was a Ramcharger. From 61 to 67, I drove the car from 64 on along with Jim Thornton. And at Chrysler, I was the race engine performance engineer.
I guess we'll start some of the commentary with you, Mike Buckle. Anybody here familiar with vintage Superstock magazines will remember a picture of the Ramcharger 67 Dart funny car up on its rear bumper. Mike, you were in that car when that happened, correct?
I sure was.
What was it like?
Well, the driver's head was out the back window, so the windshield was kind of like a slit, and all there was blue sky. And I figured, well, if the car comes down, it's going to break itself in half, so maybe I'll add power on the way down, and if it's in the ditch, it's going to crash anyway. So when it started down, I added power, and it bounced a little bit, and the only thing that failed was the plastic gears on the Mallory transformer magneto. And we took the roof off and ran some more.
So the car survived and you ran the next round?
You bet. The rear bumper had a few scratches on it. It was fiberglass, so it was no big deal.
Now, John Worley, you mentioned being in the dyno rooms. Now, we hear about the legendary Dyno Room 13. Tell me about experiences in that room.
Room 13 did the majority of our performance work. We had other dynos, but that was our primary dyno. And we did everything from the drag race development to the NASCAR development. And one of the most important things was that that's how we kind of developed our management style. Everybody would meet in that room first thing in the morning, and we'd kind of decide what we were going to do. And, you know, whether it was the boss or the operator or whoever, and we just went and did it.
Now, I know that you fellows all started as enthusiasts on the weekend in 57, 58. How long did it take for your bosses, I guess, to understand that your weekend activities should be made weekday activities? And did that transition ever happen?
Not really, you know, to an extent, but it wasn't it was kind of an upper management decision to do that, and the lower management accepted it.
Now, Tom Coddington, I've read the book, We Were the Ramchargers, and I guess Hoover called you the ghost. Why?
Well, there's a lot of different stories on that. I was kind of the quiet guy around the garage, and they never knew what I was really doing unless I was hammering something, so they kind of thought I was a ghost. The other story was I spent too much time between the kids.
Now, were you involved with carburation, or what was your specialty? I know each of the Ramchargers kind of had their area of interest.
Yeah, before I was in racing full time, I was in the fuel systems lab, which was sometimes called the carburetor lab. So yeah, I had that background.
Now we all know that the race Hemi debuted in '64, the Cross Ram, with 2 Carter AFB carburetors. Let me enter from our... Say, folks, if you're walking by, please stop in. We have the legendary Ramchargers here on stage. So if you have any questions for the Ramchargers, by all means, come on in and let it rip. We want to hear what you have to say. And again, getting back to the carburetors on the race Hemi, started out as AFB Carters and then went to Hollies after. How come?
Well, the first time we ran the car, we were on a tight schedule. We were at, I believe we went to Los Angeles, or, you know, at Pomona, the Lions. Anyway, the car, while the dynamometer development, the engine looked great, and the track it just didn't perform. The other thing that's kind of bad is we had a max wedge that was the best max wedge we ever had, and it made the Hemi look not quite so great. So we knew we had to find out what it was. We went back to Detroit, and we looked at several things. And again, the dynamometer horsepower didn't show on the track. So it had to be something in a transition or it's related to the track. So one of our members was Eric Condon, and he was a Holly rep. And he said, well, let's try some Hollies on it. But probably the more significant thing is the Hollies, we turned them 90 degrees. And that made a world of difference. We don't know exactly whether it was a distribution problem or what, but it cured it, and you didn't have time to figure it out, and we went on from there.
And go ahead, John.
Yeah, I wanted to add, since we worked in the dyno, you could develop parts and performance packages that looked really good, but it took the group and the testing to really find out if it worked, because we didn't know how to do transitional stuff. And that's where Al and the test team really made the difference, because we'd say, this is really great, but it wouldn't perform.
Now, the question I have too is, did you guys, you think the access to the dynos for your own personal projects, or were your personal projects the same thing as the team?
No, they weren't personal projects. This is company work, and we never run any personal stuff on the dyno.
Now, I know that getting back to a couple years ago, the earliest pro stock efforts, you were involved in those very much. And tell me about your experience with the Motown missile, the Mopar missile. A lot of titanium and cutting-edge materials used on that car for the first time ever.
Yes, the Motown missile cars really served as our test mules for pro stock development. And whether it was development of camshafts, intake manifolds, multi-speed transmissions, the missile served that purpose. We also raced the missile at major events, but I would say its primary purpose was to be the development vehicle for pro stock.
Now, I know that you guys would have been there at races with Sox and Martin, Dick Landy, and was there ever a motivation to win the race and maybe not share certain pieces of information, or were you guys open with everything? And did you share with your other Hemi teams?
Until we started running fuel, we shared everything. We published flyers, we published books of everything that we had learned, and once product planning got involved, they were able to get the good parts out to the other racers in less than 2 weeks for the most part. When we discovered something, it was shared because we were the development group, and we tested more than anybody. We tested. And we always had a long list of things to test. And in the summertime, the Detroit Dragway was rented every Tuesday, and our car never missed a test day.
Now, folks, I got to say that we have the legendary Ramchargers here on stage now. So if you have any questions for the Ramchargers or just want to hear the interview, please come on in and join us. The Ramchargers are here on stage right now, so come on up if you'd like. Any questions you might have, feel free to ask the guys, and they'll answer. Now, I gotta say, Dave Rockwell, I've read the book, and apparently you were like 18 years old, a pretty young guy back in the time. I would have geeked out totally to be involved with these fellows. Was it thrilling to be tagging along with the Ramchargers?
It was incredible. It was a dream come true. It was like being a Yankee fan and being able to get on the field with the Yankees. But a great opportunity to learn how things worked, how people thought who were well trained and educated, and to be accepted by a group like that was just a once-in-a-lifetime sort of experience. Real fun.
I got to say, Dave, I was at Hot Rod Magazine myself in 1998 through about 2005, something like that. I got a phone call from you once. I didn't know who you were, but you asked me if I could find some access to the Peterson Publishing photo archives. And I was in a position to put you on to somebody else. And, I guess it all worked out. But in the end, Dave Rockwell did something amazing. He created this book called We Were the Ramchargers, which really chronicles the beginning, middle, and end, and the new beginning of the Ramchargers. And I just wish that more people would take that kind of initiative and document the history of this stuff. But what you've done is a fantastic thing. So folks, we were the Ramchargers. The book will be available here on stage with autographs coming up momentarily when we're done. But Dave Rockwell, hats off to you for doing this.
Well, thanks, Steve. I want to point out, too, I've never had an opportunity to say this in public before, but people such as yourself really played an important role in that, because I'd call up and we were trying to put that book together, and we were starting from scratch. And if it weren't for people like yourself, Steve Collison, who passed away, Todd Westover, lots of people out in California who welcomed us into their archives and really were a terrific help and made a difference.
And speaking of which, I mean, the magazines were one thing, but in the book there are a lot of personal photographs that you guys took on site, including, I mean, I didn't know the 65 altered wheelbase car crashed a couple times. There's a picture of that car with the roof folded over and stuff, and maybe embarrassing at the time, but just amazingly historically important now. And those books are those photos are in the book right now. So good stuff.
Mike can tell about that.
Yeah, Mike Buckle, tell about the frogs and the altered wheelbase and going upside down in that car.
The first time I was in the car and we ran 20%, and you had to put the fire suit on and you had to put the face mask on, and boy, it was really claustrophobic. And then I was wearing glasses at the time, so as soon as you put the face mask on, the glasses turned to fog, and you're trying to stick your finger back in there and wipe the stuff off the glasses. And back then we were running like 3 and 4 psi in the tires, and I launched it and it went to the left, and those tires had 0 side bite. So it just slid sideways and rolled into the ditch at Detroit Dragway, which was full of green water. And since it had fuel injection, it kept running while it was upside down. So I turned the engine off, and I was still hanging by the seat belt. I was, man, gotta get out. So I undid the seat belt and fell on my head in the green water. But I broke the window out in the process of doing that and was able to get out of the car. So Mancini and Hoover got all the bugs, and there was frogs and the pollywogs and everything out of the motor for the next week. I still have the door from that car hanging on the wall in my garage. All these years.
What a treasure to have, my gosh. Say, folks, we have the Ramchargers here on stage now, and if you have any interest in asking them a question, now is the time. Come on up and ask the folks. Any questions? We have a question here.
Hi guys, so I guess Don Garlick's, when you were racing fuel, he will say you were good, but you never beat him head to head. Is that true? Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences and maybe bad luck against Garlick's in Top Fuel?
Yeah, Garlick's had a hoodoo on us. And every time we raced him, we'd always tank up, even more than we were already tanked up. And we managed to brake, red light, snooze, but we never beat him.
And when it comes,
I'd like to explore a little bit on that development and sharing of information. When Pro Stock came into being, it was Hoover's idea that, we'll build a test car, but if we're going to put this much effort into it, we're going to race it too. But the other thing is, on test days, everybody that raced the Mopar was invited to the track. So, Herb would come up, and so they knew what we were doing. I mean, first-hand information. When we discovered something, they were on the track at the same time. So the word got out to the sponsored races really quick. And Herb tells the story that he found a set of carburetors that Bauman put together that worked so well. And Bauman thought he was going to get them back, but Herb put the car on the trailer and got it out of there before he never got the carburetors back.
and Bauman will be John Bauman, one of the members, specialized in carburetors, I guess. John? I guess, okay, when it comes down to the street cars, we all know the 426 Hemi dominated the 1964 NASCAR, Daytona 500. First 4 spots, Richard Petty made him a hero of himself, And of course, NASCAR said, hey, 1965, until those things are available to everybody, don't come back, which begat the Street Hemi in 1966. Now, when that was all happening, how much participation did you guys play in detuning the race Hemi to the Street Hemi?
Well, the race group really helped the production guys who did most of the physical work on that. But Tom was kind of the cook for what that specification should be.
And the amazing thing about the street Hemi is really the decontenting really only came down to compression ratio, intake manifold, and cam. That was kind of it. And that's a great thing.
I had the first one. I built it up out of race parts. It was in a 65 Dodge station wagon. And I scrounged up a bunch of parts. I had to sleeve the block. It was scrapped because the wrist pin had walked out the side. And I scrounged up parts, and I had that baby running. It went 2.5 years on Woodward Avenue, undefeated. And Carol, who's sitting over there in the golf cart, used to take the kids to Sunday school. She'd come back with a big grin on her face and say, "Oh, I got another one of those Chevelles over on Woodward."
John Worley?
I was in a carpool with Mike, and we would come down a road that was 2 lanes each direction, except at the intersections where they would have a turn lane. Mike would always pull up in the turn lane so he could drag somebody, and never, ever lost.
Say, folks, the Ramchargers are here on stage. If you have any interest in hearing what they have to say, or even ask them a question, gather around, come on up. The Ramchargers are here on stage at the Dodge Showcase. Now, when it comes down to, there was a station wagon with a street Hemi in it. Was that the same car or a different car?
No, that was my car. Yeah, and all we had for tires was the Goodyear two-ply power cushion tires, but they had good enough weight distribution that you could kick it a little bit, get it going, and then wood it and hang on. And there was no super stock springs for a station wagon, so on the 1-2 upshift, which was at about 60 miles an hour, it would yaw to the left by about 15 degrees. So you kind of have to fetch it a little bit on the 1-2 shift.
That's great stuff. I mean, just keep in mind that, General Motors and Ford, by comparison, they had rather weak need performance packages. The GTO is kind of a station wagon engine with tri-power. It's an interesting package, but nothing like a Max Wedge or a street Hemi for that matter, even a 6-pack. So, I think a lot of people here at Chrysler Carlisle are here because Dodge over-delivered. They released packages that were just as potent as they could possibly be, minimal compromises. Would you agree?
Well, probably the most significant event in the whole district was after we won everything there was to win in the 61 Nationals and that kludged together 61 Dodge. And the corporate decision from the president himself, he selected Hoover to put together a race package. And if it would have gone through the normal engineering challenges with the old guys that were running, they'd have been 2 years and probably 150 horsepower behind all the way. But Hoover was given a big stack of change orders with Lynn Townsend's signature on them, which was pretty potent. And he could go into any design room or any lab and say, "This is what I want." And it had to be pretty quick because that corporate decision was made in November. And the end of 62 car production was in May. So we had to do heads, intake manifold, exhaust manifolds, clutch housing, clutch, transmission. All that had to be new in that short period of time, and he pulled it off. And there was, I think 100 cars, 50 Plymouths and 50 Dodges built, and they were the dominant cars in the 62 Nationals. But we spun the tires against Hayden Profit for stock eliminator.
Of course, Lynn Townsend would be the president at the time of Chrysler Corporation. So with him behind your program, you pretty much you wouldn't not even know very often.
But then after we lost to Hayden Profit for stock eliminator, Hoover said, "Next year we're coming with a race car." So we had time to do the 63 car and do the aluminum front end and all the stuff that went into the 63. And of course we won the Winter Nationals and the Summer Nationals and everything that was in between. So the 63 cars were real race cars.
It's great stuff too. If you read vintage copies of Hot Rod, Superstock magazine, stuff like that, you'll see full-page ads showing the Ramchargers in the first and second place at certain races. And what was it like to come in on a Monday morning and kind of know that you guys were the heroes, in a sense, of the company.
Well, we met for breakfast every morning in the Chrysler cafeteria and planned the day, and we just rehashed Sunday's event. You know, right down to the ETs and speeds and who and what and where. So that lasted about a day, and then we just got on with it.